Good evening and welcome to another edition of Special Assignment. I'm your host, Ashraf Garda. Litigation claims against the Gauteng Health Department for negligence committed by health professionals continue to cost the government millions of rands. This despite the insistence by the department that a strategy is in place to create an effective public health service. However, reports of patient negligence continue. And in this investigation, we discover that the department is facing more litigation claims with 800 million rands. Amos Pacho went on special assignment and compiled this report.
They pull him and pull him and pull him, and then the chin got stuck inside my private part. And then one of the big nurses came to my side bed, and then she pressed me with her knee on my stomach. It's when the baby came out.
When he came into my room, he just banged the door and roughly touching my tummy and said to me, "Push now."
These are some of the victims who suffered at the hands of negligent health workers at public hospitals in Gauteng. The Provincial Health Department has paid them millions of rands for damages as a result of inefficiencies in the hospitals. The litigation costs have caused a furor at the provincial legislature, and authorities are demanding action against culprits.
We need to have our health professionals having to suffer the consequences.
It was meant to be a fulfilling moment for Tshepo Kanye and her husband as they were looking forward to the birth of their only son.
At about 1:30 to 2, I heard something on my private part, and I just screaming, and then the nurses came to me. When they came, they said to me, "Your baby has taken out one leg, so you must tell us if the pain stops so that we can take you to the labor ward."
Tshepo followed the nurse's instructions and was eventually moved to the labor ward where she would deliver her baby.
They hang both of my legs up, and they instructed me not to push the baby because the head is still inside. I followed the instruction because they say one leg is out, they must push that one leg back so that they can find another one and put them together and pull the baby. So they pull him and pull him and pull him, and then the chin got stuck inside my private part. And then one of the big nurses came to my side bed, and then she pressed me with her knee on my stomach. It's when the baby came out.
After the traumatic birth experience, Tshepo's newborn baby was admitted to the high care unit. This rose suspicions in Kanye's mind. She was hoping that her newborn baby would be put in a small bed and be placed next to her. Her curiosity about her health and that of her child prompted her to look into her bed letter, which normally details a patient's progress report. Tshepo made a shocking discovery in the letter.
I just checked my bed letter, and she wrote that the baby seemingly passed away. The baby passed away. Why didn't they tell me that my baby passed away? I went to the nurse station and asked them, "Where's my baby?" Because this nurse wrote in that my baby passed away. Why didn't you tell me?
The information contained in Tshepo's bed letter was eventually disputed by the nurses, who confirmed that her baby was still alive. However, the baby was in a terrible state.
When I got there, Prince was all over his face, was giving the scars because they were pulling him with the nails, and then he was in a critical condition. And then they said to me, I must tell my husband to come and see the baby because anything can happen to this baby. I definitely told my husband, and he came to see the baby. The baby was so injured all over the face. But they didn't explain to me what went wrong with Prince.
Prince was discharged from hospital 3 weeks after birth. Little did his parents know that he will never be a normal baby. His mother started getting worried when he was 10 months old, and she realized he still could not sit or crawl.
And we took him to the chemist. When we went there was a sister there, and the sister said to me, "No, I'm not going to give you a calcium powder until I assess your baby." she assessed my boy, and then he was like, "What's wrong with the baby?" And I said, "I don't know." And then she wrote me a letter to go back to the hospital. When I got there, they asked me, "Is Prince sick?" And I was like, "No." The sister wrote me a letter that you must explain to me what's wrong with Prince. It's when they started to explain to me that Prince has got the brain damage. I must bring him for physio here in hospital. And I didn't know anything about the brain damage.
Tembeni says this realization initially left her with feelings of disappointment about her child's disabilities. She says the health professionals at the hospital could have handled her delivery better.
No, I was just feeling like they didn't care about somebody else's life because they said to us they were having an emergency at that time in theatre, but their reports came back and said their last operation was at 10:30, and then Prince took out one leg at about 1:30 to 2. Maybe if they operated me, Prince would be a healthy baby. No.
Tembeni had no idea that she could take legal steps against the department.
When Prince was 5 years old, I took him to school there in Brakpan. One of the lady called me there, the deputy principal of the school. She asked me, "What's my problem?" And I just explained to her, "I'm not working. My husband is working alone, and then we've got other kids, and we are just struggling." And then she was like, Can I hire you to come and work for me?" And I said, "Yes." And then I started working for her. It was on August, the 9th of August. October, she asked me, "Why is Prince like this?" And I started explaining to her. And then she was like, "Did you take them to the court?" And I said, "No." And then she said, "You must take them to the court. They must pay you." "To the court? How can I take them to the court?" And then she said to me, "I'll bring you the number of one of the attorneys in Benoni."
Gary is the lawyer who represented Tembeni. After gathering the information around what happened to Tembeni, Gary concluded that there was enough ground to pursue legal action against the Department of Health. This is what was claimed for.
The claim is essentially made up of medical expenses, that is, medical expenses in the past that have already been incurred, medical expenses that will be incurred in the future, loss of earnings, and then general damages. General damages is made up as a lump sum for pain, suffering, inconvenience, disfigurement, disability, impairment, etc.
So is enough being done to stop medical negligence? We find out after this.
This is Fugis Kosana, who stay a few kilometers from where Tembeni lives. She also encountered harsh treatment while giving birth to her son Ntokozo.
Doctor just come at 9:30. When the sister discussed with the doctor, says this is a difficult delivery. So she didn't want to listen to them. The way he was so rude and angry. Then he just banged the door. When he come into my room, he just banged the door and roughly touching my tummy and said to me, "Push now." I said to him, "How can I push without the pain?" She says to me, "You can't even say that, just push." He ended up clapping me. I said to him, "You heard me say nonsense." He ended up again and clapped me twice.
After her confrontation with the doctor, Fuki eventually succumbed to the pressure.
He ended up sitting on my tummy and say, "Push." I said to him, "You heard me, because now I can't breathe, I can't do nothing." Then he started clapping my tummy, my thigh, say, "Push now." Then he ended up opening my thigh so rough.
Fuki's difficult delivery with the doctor's questionable actions lasted for several hours.
I pushed so hard, he just phoned to the theater and bring some instrument that they call the forceps deliveries. He used that forceps several times, but she also failed. The baby didn't come out. He also used the vacuum. There's an instrument that they call the vacuum. He also failed several times, also failed. Then I was pushing, nothing come out. 25 to 3, Tuesday morning, is where the baby come out. The baby was unconscious.
Fugis' baby stayed in hospital for over a month.
We just found that the baby still unconscious. So I was traveling every day to check the baby how is, but there was no changes. He was staying there for 1 month, 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, because the way he was unconscious, they were feeding with the pipe on the bunny button. So after that, I just asked them, what did you do? The way I harassed, I just complained to the superintendent, Pretoria. So they say to me, don't be harsh. We are busy with your case till now. The baby is 8 years now. They are still busy even now. Until I get Gary Austin, then he helped me with these things.
Fugis' son Ntokozo suffered permanent damage to his upper left body and in the past has also encountered speech problems. His wish of becoming a soccer star is overshadowed by his disability.
He's at the special school. I don't know what is going to be at the end of his life.
Austin represented both complainants successfully. He managed to claim millions of rands from the Department of Health following a legal battle that stretched over more than 4 years.
A personal injury case is divided into 2 parts. The first part, the plaintiff has to prove that the defendant was negligent. That is a trial that is held on its own. At that trial, we do not deal with any monetary aspects of the claim whatsoever. If the plaintiff is successful in its claim, then the trial will be postponed to another further date in the future, and at that date, the monetary aspect of the claim will be determined.
He says in the past it was difficult to force the state to cough up even after the courts have made rulings on litigation cases. Austin says things have changed since the amendment of the State Liability Act in August last year. The new amendment now allows claimants to obtain a warrant of execution and can therefore attach movable state assets such as furniture. The Health Portfolio Committee has summoned Health Department several times in the recent past to explain the continued litigation cases against the department. Special assignment can reveal that the Provincial Department of Health is currently facing more litigation claims amounting to just under R1 billion.
Indeed, it is true that the department has been, over the years, one could even say 6 years, being litigations that are on the increase. As we speak, we are talking about 800 million litigations.
However, the Provincial Health Department says most of these claims have not been settled as they are still under investigation. The department says just over 50 million rand has been paid over the past 2 years.
We've paid about 52 million. We think it's a lot of money. That's why we need to strengthen the systems to ensure that we're not paying those kinds of monies out. But some of the cases are old cases. They're only being settled now.
The department is yet to appear before the Standing Committee on Public Accounts to explain the 3.4 billion rand it lost due to premature cancellation of contracts and litigation claims. The Health Portfolio Committee wants tougher action against negligent health professionals.
We need to have our health professionals having to suffer the consequences. Litigations can be avoided in many ways. Can be avoided in many ways in the sense that we must then have people who are appointed that are skillful, competent, who know what they are doing and what they want to achieve. Be it nurses in the nursing fraternity with nurses management, be it the clinicians, be it the surgeons, be it the doctors.
Although the department claims it's got a strategy in place, reports of continued negligence in public hospitals paints a different picture.
What consequences will healthcare in the province suffer if the department is forced to pay out the multi-million rand claims? We'll get some answers in a moment.
The Health Professions Council of South Africa is the regulatory body that oversees the education and training, and more importantly, the professional conduct and ethical behavior of healthcare workers. It also regulates compliance with healthcare standards. The council dealt with more than 550 cases of transgressions since 2009. However, only 12 health workers have so far been barred from practicing.
There are a variety of complaints. They predominantly relate to procedures that relate to complications. You have issues with regard to mismanagement of patients. You have negligence, and you have cases such as operating on the wrong leg by a practitioner. But the common thread is that there would be some element of negligence with regard to most of these complaints.
We have to have a decisive attitude, a determined attitude that where we establish the fact that there has been negligence by a particular clinician, a particular nurse who has thrown this child into boiling water, ultimately the law must take its course. So that will then be some kind of compliance that is forced onto our health professionals, that wherever they take care of patients, that patient must be taken care of with full realization that if I do something wrong, I'll suffer the consequences. And that's why I think perhaps we have been lucky.
I mean, this year there were 54 people that have been taken through the disciplinary process. There were 6 dismissals, 7 people got suspension, and others got progressive discipline. That would be final warnings and such. And other cases are still pending. So we take these matters seriously.
The department insists that its campaign to deal with medical negligence is effective.
The campaigns I think, are adequate. They may need to be strengthened, but the campaigns are adequate. But these things happen because sometimes there's an opportunity. People think that I can get away with it. That is a gap also that we need to close. Because maybe there is a gap of supervision that needs to be closed. So when people know that I cannot get away with it, that when this thing is found out, I'm going to be punished.
Adele van der Walt is a medical lawyer and worked in a number of litigation cases against the Department of Health. She says the challenges facing the system are common in most facilities.
Poor communication, if we can start off with that, but I also think the continuity between the nursing staff and the doctors, and then obviously also the numbers of sisters, nursing sisters and doctors, the ratio that they need in public and in private sector is definitely not always what it needs to be. And it's not possible then for those healthcare givers or providers to sustain a specific level if they don't have enough numbers, but also the experienced staff that needs in each and every discipline in a hospital.
The department believes that the millions it paid as settlements in litigation cases have not affected its capacity to render effective public health services. However, last week the department was allocated 2.4 billion rand in additional funding to address and assist in the implementation of the health turnaround strategy. With litigation claims worth hundreds of millions of rands, the department might still continue to encounter financial shortfalls as these litigation claims are not budgeted for.
With the 800 million that we are talking about, it's worth building a hospital. Once the department realizes indeed there has been negligence, and in this are negligence with dire consequences. Here's a patient that cannot speak anymore. That has gone deaf. You can't recover the deafness. Here is a patient whose limb is gone because the other limb was supposed to be operated, and the other. Why stay on and increase the number, the amount of litigation?
In terms of our framework, what we've done is, as council, in the past, the criticism that was leveled against us was that we were adopting a punitive approach with regard to most of these matters. We've now looked at the performance assessment model where the committee, once there's a finding of with regard to the competence of a particular practitioner, it would be referred to the next level, which is your performance assessment committee. That committee is entrusted with looking at the issues with regard to the competence of a practitioner, and there are a number of interventions that will be put in place to ensure that the practitioner is capacitated and is able to perform or apply their trade.
I refer to the bad administration. We know, especially if we refer to this in public sector, where a lot of these women queue for delivery. Half of those theatres are operational, but all of them are wonderfully equipped. So we've got a problem with the management of those theatres, and the facilities are available.
We questioned the department on the action that was taken against health professionals involved in both the Fugis Kosana and Prince Kanye matter. However, days later, we still couldn't get clear answers.
I think those would fall under some of the cases that we've referred to the National Health Council for further investigation. Well, they happened so many years in the past, those incidents. So I think they form part of the cases that we've referred to the Professional Council to look at, adjudicate upon, and be able to determine what needs to happen.
Although the victims were compensated by the department, the families say no amount of money can compensate for what they have to deal with on a daily basis.
There is a different, after that compensation, there is a lot different. But even though the money is not going to buy Prince's life, that's what I'm sure of. It's not going to buy Prince's life, because to see him crawling all over the house day and night, it's painful. It's painful. Even if you want to go out and play, you can't, because he must crawl and it's hot and it's so painful. I don't know, because I'm also growing up. I don't know, at the age of 60, 50, I'll be still coping to handle him. I don't know, because it's going to be a baby forever.
Now, I'd like your comment on this question. Is the Provincial Health Department failing to deal adequately with medical negligence cases, or have health professionals simply lost interest due to poor working conditions? Well, if you're tweeting, use the hashtag special assignment. You can also Facebook or email us. And I take this issue further on my radio show on SAFM. That's Friday just after 2 p.m. Finally, feedback from last week's show, where we showed you the dramatic footage of Lenasia's residents whose homes were demolished by the housing department in the Cash for Land scam saga. Isabel Smith tweeted saying, Lenasia people were advised beforehand not to build there, but they defied the order, so they must pay the price. And Peter Newmark Facebooked, this was a high-level scam operation involving multiple entities and corrupt officials. If those residents turn against the officials, then the government should support them in some way. Well, that's it for tonight. Join us again next week when we bring you a special edition of the highlights that we showcased over the past year on Special Assignment.